Good afternoon, my name is Nigel Hughes. I'm the Chief Executive and co-founder of Greenlight Trust, and welcome to the Foundry, which we converted from an old traction engine shed and threshing barn from 2005 to 2006. And there are a number of features that I'd like to show you that makes it a low carbon building. Follow me. So when we decided to build our headquarters here in Lawshall, the Foundry, for Greenlight Trust, we decided to coin a phrase called deep green principles. And we needed to ensure that everything we did left a very light footprint on the earth. We wanted to make sure that we were using the rainwater. We wanted to make sure that we were using solar and passive ventilation. We wanted to install a wind turbine, and we wanted to make sure that we were taking care of our own waste products. Hence, behind me, the reed bed. Now, the reed bed is one of those magnificent self-clean operations. So, the rain comes from the sky, goes onto the roof and falls into the 4,000 litre tank at the back of the building underground. And then every time we flush the loo, it actually sends the water through the system. The foul water goes underneath, goes into these 3 tanks here at the back and gets cleaned through a bark filtration system, and then sends the half-cleaned water through the reed beds, and it's got its soil, its sand and its aggregate. So by the time the water comes through the end, it's virtually clean. Now, some people say that you could drink that water, but I haven't tried it yet. The Proven wind turbine is producing some of our own electricity. So there are 2 things I'd like to show you now, is the passive ventilation system, which are the 3 chimneys behind me, and the solar panels. Because it's a fairly airtight building, what the passive ventilation system does, it keeps the airflow regularly, winter and summer. So obviously in the summer it's keeping it cool, and in the winter it's keeping warm. And secondly are the solar panels, which are homemade. We didn't go for the expensive commercial variety, and what they do is they're providing us enough hot water for all our use from this time of year, which is April, right through till maybe the middle of September. The Foundry was originally an 1840s threshing barn, and then it was transformed into a traction engine maintenance shed. And then this is a picture of when we purchased it in 2005 in its dilapidated state, where it had been derelict for 50 years. As I said earlier, we wanted to honour our deep green principles. So it's 85% original timber frame we managed to remove and replace, and it's now setting. And in order for the insulation on the floor particularly to be effective, we created these hemp and lime insulation bricks, 680 of them made by hand by local volunteers. It's on a very light footing, so the footings only go down about 1 metre, and there is no membrane underneath because we have a no plastic policy. So here we are now inside the building. You'll see the original timber frame, which we understand came originally from Thetford Forest, and the hemp and lime in between the studs in order for maximum insulation capacity. And there's a brick floor, which of course is sitting again on hemp and lime with underfloor heating, and under that is the clay soil. So if I can take you back to look at the hemp and lime itself, which was one of the traditional building materials that we had, and the hemp is the non-narcotic variety of hemp, I hasten to add, mixed with 2 types of lime. And what we had to do is we had to find a way in order to make sure that we were working with material safely and efficiently. So the internal finish you'll see is a lime plaster on top of the hemp and lime, and then finished with a lime wash. And we get this wonderful sort of almost Provence-like effect. And all the timbers, again, are covered in lime wash, which enables it to resist all the beetles and bugs. The windows are a very interesting feature because we use a traditional Scandinavian design, effectively a secondary glazing element where there are trickle vents on the outside underneath the sill, and there's a constant airflow that comes through. So as the air comes in through the building, then it's warmed, comes into the building, and then it transverses and cools on the way out as well. So it's a constantly moving airflow like the building itself. And it prevents condensation and actually prevents a lot of heat loss. One of the things that we decided was to honour the original geographic layout. So obviously this is south, north, east, west. And one of the things we wanted to do was to make sure that we were getting as much solar gain as possible. So there were original skylights, which we managed to reinstate. And that's bringing a lot of natural light into the building. The other thing that I wanted to point out here was the mechanism itself for the traction engine maintenance. So this is the original pulley system, obviously without the chains. And actually we can run along the track this pulley system, so it does still operate. And in the future, who knows what use we might bring that to. So the last thing I wanted to show you inside the building was the wattle and daub. And the wattle comes from the traditional Bradfield Woods, which is only 5 miles away from here, hazel, and the daub comes from the clay on site itself, mixed with our own organic hay. So if you follow me, I'll show you our demonstration panel in the office. And you'll see here behind the glass, in order to preserve it, is the hazel, which again have a very light coating of lime, and the daub itself, which is a mixture of the clay and hay. And here's one finished panel, which was done by our expert Paula Sunshine. And round here in the disabled loo is a perfectly formed and shaped wall, which is just waiting for its last coating of lime wash on it. So Greenlight Trust is a woodland-based organisation. We do plant trees as well as other things. And you might be wondering about how we heat this fabulous building. And of course, it is the underfloor heating, which is heated by our own wood chip boiler. And the source of the wood chip comes from our 21-acre woodland. Greenlight Trust is based on 4 cornerstones: children, community, biodiversity, and global kinship. If we were to look at some of the biodiversity benefits, then this is a good example of the coppicing regime that we've introduced, which of course is a traditional woodland management technique. This is a 12-year-old tree. If I take you to a tree that was planted in exactly the same time and that we coppiced 4 years ago, this is now what's happening to that tree. So we're getting 8 stems out of a 1-stem tree. In another 4 years' time, we'll be taking these down to ground level, and there will be more stems that come up. And then over here, you'll begin to see some of the product that we get out of the coppicing regime. And some of these will be taken up to sell on as golden wood logs, especially for Christmas. They're very popular. Maybe they'll be used for walking sticks. Maybe they'll be used for the stems of the hurdles intertwined with either our hazel or our willow. So a lot of productivity. So once the coppicing has been done, then we have a very friendly local farmer with their pony and trap and donkey and trap transport the wood up into the store, where it stands for at least a year to season and then dry. So if I can take you to the wood chip store, at the moment we get a delivery into the store, and then there's an auger and a sweep arm that actually transports the wood chip, where it's feeding constantly into the wood chip firebox. And here we have a small unit which is literally the heated water, and then that heated water goes underground and feeds the underfloor heating system. We're relying on nature through the rainwater harvesting. We're using our own woodland in order to feed the wood chip boiler. We've used local natural materials within a 25-mile radius as much as possible, and we've really looked at the triple bottom line, which is taking care of the environment, looking at the social aspect, and eventually saving ourselves about £20,000 in the building of this building through a lot of hands-on volunteer employment.